Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Cult Film Review. I am your host, Cody Everett, and this week we are talking about the 1988 film Waxwork. Huh.
That says it all.
Yep.
That says it all.
There's nothing else that needs to be said.
Let's start the show.
Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex? Klopex. Klopex.
Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hey guys, welcome to Cult Film Review. Again, another intro. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways, I'm here with the normal crew. I am here with the engineer of this fine podcast.
Thank you.
Known as Cult Film Review. He's also the owner, operator, proprietor, and just all-around CEO of Bluefield Audio.
Yeah,
He is Kyle Smith.
I hold a lot of titles, that's for sure.
Wear many hats.
Yeah, you got to wear hats when you own your own business, Mike.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
You
every
do.
hat.
I feel like he owns a couple of websites, but he couldn't tell you what a single one of them are.
Who, me?
No.
Oh, sorry. It's my
Can
my
you
moment's
allow
over. My moment's done. I'm sorry.
We're done with you.
Yeah. Yeah. What's
Showering you with grace.
What's the name of that blog that you don't know what it is?
What?
What?
See?
I have a blog?
Oh.
He is Michael Salustio.
Yeah, I write at friendlyneighborhoodfilmmaking.com.
Oh wow.
You can
I
also
do.
follow him on Twitter and stuff.
And I write sometimes for our website, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You
write
actually-
things.
You can
You're
actually
pretty
read
much
there.
like the only one that writes for our
Ooh,
website.
broke the rule of podcasting of talking before you are introduced.
Chris will introduce himself as he
Oh,
always
What are you pointing at
does.
me for? I didn't talk until I was introduced.
Yeah.
That's true,
That's
you
like
did.
the number one rule.
Yeah.
You
That
thought it
is
was
not-
rude.
I've never-
Everyone knows that.
Okay, we have a board with information on it. I do not see any rules in this podcast.
That's because
listed up there.
every week we erase it and put up new information.
And
That's
there's-
just an unwritten rule. You've
There's
heard of that
never
before?
been rules.
Have you ever heard
on
of an
that board.
unwritten rule?
He doesn't follow the rules, and he is the bad boy of cult film and review.
Glad I brought my leather jacket.
He's also the VP of buying stuff.
VP is spending other people's money.
That's what he does.
No.
He is Chris Willenbrecht.
Hey, what's up?
All right, guys, so we're here, and we are going to review, what the hell are we reviewing?
Waxwork.
Waxwork.
You picked it.
I know.
Oh, my
I was
goodness.
just-
Cody, I'm gonna
Another
I'm gonna-
one. Another one. He's trying to duck out.
Yeah,
of.
no, Cody, I'm going to take your role on this. Why Waxwork? Why did you pick Waxwork?
Yeah, so Waxwork I picked because I saw this when I was younger. I can't remember how. I had to be in like, I want to say like I was like probably like a freshman in high school. Somewhere around there.
Little
Very
kid.
Yeah, very impressionable. Very impressionable. I remember loving this movie when I saw it. So I haven't seen it since. So I said, why not Waxwork? I don't even know if this is a cult film. I guess we're going to find out in discussing it. But yeah. How about it now as an adult?
How about it?
Okay.
I've never seen this movie. I never
Me
saw
neither.
it until this viewing. So
Yeah.
but I do remember the cover. I really liked the cover
Yeah.
going down the horror aisle
Yeah.
as a kid. You
Very
know?
memorable. Very
that
memorable.
little tiny midget guy girl thing, and then all the creatures
Oh.
through the doorway. Oh, sorry, did I offend you, Mike?
He's a guy.
Oh.
He's a guy.
Is that a guy? I didn't know.
He's from Paradise Island, isn't he? Or
I have no
what
idea.
is it?
Paradise Island.
He's from
No, no.
Paradise Island.
Goldfinger?
The plane.
Dude,
with-
I
I think he's
yeah.
from Goldfinger, right?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
way
the man with the
older.
golden gun, I think.
way
Oh,
older than us.
Scaramanga.
Oh,
way older than us.
sweet
I don't
Lord.
know him. Okay, so it's a man. I'm sorry. I
Hold
apologize.
on.
Has anyone else not seen this movie?
I tried to watch it once. I put 5 minutes on and then I went about my life.
Okay, Mike.
So
Saw it in
I
theaters.
had never even heard of it until you.
Until I
picked it.
okay. So this was your first
until,
showing also.
until Cody forced you to spend money on it.
Yeah.
So this was your first peep into it.
It is
So let me ask you this then.
Fantasy Island. Sorry, came to me just
Good
now.
for you.
Let me ask this for the first time watchers, which is everybody, it sounds like, but me.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you think this is in any way, because I think it is, an influential film?
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Nope.
Yes.
I know what you're gonna say,
I know what he's going to say too, and I agree with him.
and I'm gonna.
What's he
disagree.
gonna say? Because I have no
Because
idea.
I think this is, Joss Whedon took some examples of this in Cabin in the Woods.
Uh,
I want
The whole concept. I mean, it's not a new concept. We've talked about this, I think, before, where it's not here, obviously, but where it's this concept of this trapped in some kind of, like, if it's not like going to see a scary movie and then being trapped in that movie, or going to see a Waxwork.
Yeah,
being
it's
trapped
a
in that
monster
Waxwork.
movie that's populated with like the most popular movie monsters at the time.
Yes.
That's what Cabin in the Woods basically was. It was
Right.
a representation of all those really popular
So
movie
I'll tell you what
monsters.
I thought about with this when I first saw it. I was like, oh, some old mysterious guy just invited a bunch of people to stay at this place and see their thing, but he knows full well that it's got metaphysical things going on in it. I thought House on Haunted Hill. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, this is the same basic concept. Some old guy says, hey, everybody come on into this thing. It's not, I'll give you $10,000 if you survive the night, but he knows that there's something in it.
In House on Haunted Hill, though, there wasn't like was there like
No.
a deeper purpose where he was trying to
Yes.
achieve some kind of apocalyptic, fulfilling some
No.
kind of destiny thing.
No, but they did that in like 13 Ghosts. That was another
Yeah,
film
but
that kind of
13
did
Ghosts
this.
was-
But that comes after, obviously.
13
Yeah.
Ghosts is
No, I see
Again,
where
but-
Cody's going with this
I
because
feel like
mean,
it's a theme that gets used a lot.
realistically, had they have gotten the rights to all the characters they wanted to use, then all the wax figurines would have been like the '80s, like bad guys. Like I know for a fact, Jason Voorhees was supposed to be one of them, and they make a reference to Little Shop of Horrors with
Yep.
the "Feed Me."
Yep.
And then that also. It's funny that pot thing plays like double duty because it's also a reference to Invasion of the Body Snatchers as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
So had they been able to actually get all the rights, then yeah, this would have. I think you guys would have seen the connection a little bit better.
No, I saw the connection.
But I
I'm
definitely
not saying
would.
that
I
I
would
don't.
like to ask Joss Whedon. I'm like, hey, didn't like how
was this an influence?
was this an influence for
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods? Because I can see it.
No, I can see it too. I'm just my whole thing is I'm wondering if this is something that when Joss Whedon did Cabin in the Woods, was he just like, yeah, I mean, it's an influence as much as all these other films were influences.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Is like, this is not an idea that is so original.
Yeah.
No,
to
like
throw
Monster-
a bunch of shit that people like into one movie.
Monster
like,
Squad did the same thing. It's
yeah.
very
I
similar.
was gonna
to
say
this.
that, but
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna get chewed out for it,
No.
like I usually do.
No. Go ahead, you can talk. It's okay. Use your words.
No, I feel like every time I compare movies, it's like bullshit. Get out of here.
No,
That's what he
no,
wants you on
no,
the show.
Chris,
That's 'cause you're the
Chris,
bad boy,
Chris.
Chris.
Just say
You know.
it. Just say it. Say it.
Yeah, all I'm gonna say is this really has a Repo Man vibe to it.
Oh my God! Are you fucking nuts?
Yes, I am. I'm
All
just
right.
kidding.
I just did that because you brought it up. That's all.
I don't know. Like, I mean, yeah, I just don't think that taking a bunch of influential characters and trying to jam them into one movie is like that original of an idea.
No, I don't think it's original.
No,
but-
I don't think it's original either.
But I like how this movie didn't completely stick to just the Universal movie monsters. Like,
Yeah.
they tried to incorporate, or they wanted to incorporate monsters from the '80s,
Mhm.
like the slashers and shit,
And-
like those guys.
And oddly enough, the biggest guy in it was the Marquis de Sade.
Yeah, I know. That was really bizarre.
That was kind of like
Yeah.
a weird thing.
What is that
Yeah.
from? I don't even know.
Marquis is a
Anyways.
real.
Yeah.
That was just
Go
a
ahead.
real.
Are we not going to talk about the history?
No, go ahead. I was gonna say, go ahead and explain who he is, but then I want to go into
Yeah.
what the fuck this movie's about because we haven't explained it yet.
Okay.
Like always.
Just real quick, the Marquis de Sade, he's a historical figure. He was like really into like really kinky sex kind of shit and pain, and
Mm.
he was like really into S&M and
That
stuff
chick
like
was
that.
loving the hell out of that.
we'll bring that up in a moment.
Yeah, we'll
But
talk
anyways,
about that.
if you don't know what the movie's about, the Waxwork is about 6 teenage friends, maybe
Well,
more.
they're in college apparently.
That was college.
We don't know. We actually
It's been labeled college kids in every description I've read.
Huh,
So-
weird.
Okay,
What college
college.
are they going to? That they're
they have lockers.
I know, but I'm
Lockers
with
in the
you.
hallways.
I'm with you. I thought they were high school kids the entire time.
Yeah.
I definitely thought they were too. And
So-
What an interesting class. Oh, yeah, continue.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
We'll get into that too. So basically, it's about 6 students who are walking down the street, and this weird guy just pops out of nowhere and tells them to come to a private showing of his waxwork.
Looking like fucking Willy Wonka.
Yeah, looking like Willy Wonka. To show them the waxwork at midnight. The kids have nothing to do, so they basically go to the waxwork, and then that's when the terror ensues. Not really terror, but anyways, that's when all the horror ensues, and I'm sure we're gonna get into all of it. So because there's different scenes and scenarios, but
Yeah, there are.
But also, though, it's David Lincoln, who's the Waxwork man.
Yes.
It's his goal to basically get these kids into his waxwork so that he can basically bring on
them
the
to life.
apocalypse, right? Is that
bring
the idea?
Bring the waxworks to life to bring on the apocalypse.
Which is crazy
I
because
guess.
that's the opposite of Cabin in the Woods.
Is it?
In Cabin in the Woods,
It was a
they were
sacrifice.
They
It
were
was a blood
sacrificing
sacrifice.
so the apocalypse didn't happen.
Oh, see, that's just the twist he put on it.
Yeah.
Just put
Yeah.
a little twist.
I'm just saying, it's no
Cool.
need to-
Little twist
Yeah.
there. That's
Oh.
how that's the difference between a
You
bad
flip-flopped
filmmaker
it.
and a good filmmaker.
You know what I found
That
funny
little
when
twist.
when the kids finally, or when they see the waxwork, the two girls actually, they're the first ones that get introduced
Mhm.
to it. It's literally just in the middle of some weird, like some suburban neighborhood,
that's-
and it's like, and they're like, "What a weird spot for a waxwork." Why do they never explain that?
Well, here's why, because he's magical.
Why should they explain that?
And yeah, they
Because
don't
it's
have
so odd. It's just like sticks out. Like, why of all places
I'll tell
would
you.
it be there?
I'll tell you exactly why it was there.
Okay.
to $1.5 million budget.
Oh yeah.
$1.5 million budget, and that was the coolest house they could possibly
Couldn't have
get.
found like an empty fucking warehouse.
I also
somewhere?
think there
That
is.
seems like a strange
well,
place
yeah.
for a waxwork.
I think that's.
Oh, but in a suburban neighborhood of family homes,
Why
that's
would-
a good spot.
Yeah.
Why
that
would
not a lot of
suburban
people
kids be
coming
walking around like old abandoned?
Boom.
College kids would go down to the city
Oh, would they? They would go around the old abandoned warehouse.
if they were walking by just the same way they did this
Well,
one.
hold
And
on, hold
what-
on.
Yeah, well,
what's
they
the
were
difference?
walking down a neighborhood.
Yeah.
But
Young
the-
kids
the-
don't
the-
walk around downtown. How
I
could
think-
that
I
happen?
think the problem is it doesn't make any goddamn sense. The only thing that does make sense is that it had no budget, and that was probably the coolest looking structure
I
that
agree.
they could
Yeah,
actually
that's-
afford.
Okay, well,
That's probably true.
I want to ask a question
Aesthetic.
because you're bringing this up.
Yeah.
No one thought that this film was so tongue in cheek.
I said that. I said it when watching
It
it
is.
with Kyle.
It is.
Yeah.
That's
So
why
it's
it's
like,
labeled a horror
I
comedy.
can't- The thing that I agree it's tongue in cheek, but the thing that I can't put my finger on is whether it was tongue in cheek from day one or if it became tongue in cheek once they saw the footage they got. That's what I
think
can't figure out.
I'm more on that side.
Yeah, I
Like,
think they're
oh,
like,
whoops.
How do we save this? Oh, let's
It's
just
a comedy.
let's just shoot additional scenes that make it look.
But his excuse for why it was in the middle of suburbia, like, came off like such a joke to me.
What was his excuse? I don't remember it.
He was like, "Why not here?" Like that was such a weird.
Yeah,
like
that's
it
true.
was like it. I laughed. I laughed out loud when I heard that.
Yeah, it's kind of making fun of itself by
Yeah, it was
doing
like,
that. So
and he like literally got offended by it. Like, well, this is a weird place to put it. Well, why would this be a weird? Why?
Yeah, that happened several
cool
times
fucking
throughout the
house.
film where
I'd
they're
put a
like,
waxwork there.
"Oh, it's the Phantom of the Opera. They made a movie or something like that." And he's like, "They made a movie about it." Like it
Yeah,
just
there
seemed
was.
really. He
Oh,
seemed
he-
confused about everything going on in the
'cause
real world.
Because he's out working, building these beautiful structures.
plus you know
outworking.
he's infinite years old. So
yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I think most of his world
Yeah,
revolves
he
around.
lives in an archaic time.
Yeah,
and
it
he's not
revolves around these, just like
He's not hip.
perfecting these whatever he's making.
But he got out enough to get
waxwork.
He got out
things.
enough to get a prop from a zombie film, which
What?
is kind of weird.
What do
He
you mean?
got out enough to get a prop from a zombie film.
What do you mean?
Well, one of the things that they say in this film was, okay, so these wax sculptures, the way they work is that you get an artifact from them and you put them into the thing.
It's like the
Yeah.
18
And they
most
brought it back
evil
to-
artifacts on Earth or something.
Plus another
Yeah.
18 items from
but he was
the actual.
but as I was watching it, I'm like, but all of these characters aren't real people.
Well, that's the
Right?
That's the disbelief you need to
Right.
suspend.
Like
You
the
need to
Phantom of the
just
Opera-
assume that's a real person.
Right. Okay, but the kid, the zombie film that the guy is all black and white and stuff like that, looks like
Yeah.
a Romero film.
Mm-hmm.
One of the kids walks up to the waxwork and he goes, "Oh my god, those are the glasses from like Evil Night of the Little Killer Aliens." And he that's what the whole reason why he walks into the thing.
What was the title of that movie again?
I don't know. He made it up. It was some ridiculous thing.
Evil
like,
Night of the Level Killer.
Whatever.
Not the level killer.
The old level killer.
He balances your pictures
It does.
before he slits your throat.
It's but yeah, like
Have you noticed anything weird about these murders, Detective Tom? No, I haven't.
all of these pictures are off center.
all of
perfectly
these
centered.
pictures are perfectly leveled. It's almost inhuman.
Do you think a family of 4 with two 2-year-olds
Two 2-year-olds.
Two 2-year-olds could have accomplished this amount of leveling
could have this kind of leveling. Detective Tom.
with a single anchor point and a wire. Not possible.
Okay, but anyways, going back to this, it's so
He's a professional picture hanger. We know that for sure.
I'm a professional picture hanger by trade, serial killer by night.
Also a perfectional picture.
Perfectional. That's what I said.
Oh, no one made
Hey,
fun of him.
He just called me out.
Nah.
What did we make fun of you for?
Level.
Level killer.
Level killer.
Hey, you created something great there.
Yeah.
That is.
Don't hate it.
That's gonna be the next.
What were you
film
gonna
that
say,
comes out. It just shows that all of these weird artifacts that they were finding, not all of them existed in reality.
Yeah.
It's in the movie reality. They
But
want
where
you to
was these
believe that.
zombies? What was there an event?
I don't know.
Was it a
Mike.
documentary?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think
I think what it was
That's the whole reason the
hey,
guy goes
let's-
into the thing.
I
is
think
say,
the whole thing was, hey, let's put all these
yeah.
cool creatures from all these movies into this one movie. Oh, you mean I can't get the rights to them?
You're really thinking.
Fuck.
You're really
This movie
thinking.
doesn't make sense anymore.
You're really thinking hard about the movie that where the character when he says, "You want a beer?" There's a sign lit behind him that just says beer. And it's like the worst close-up
Want a
shot I've
beer?
ever seen.
Oh no, the worst one is when he stabs the person.
And it- oh,
that
yeah, that's
fucking
all the-
that pose he does, where he's just like butt out.
I'm not trying to take it too seriously. All I'm saying is that
I
the
see where you're
character,
coming
the
from.
main character, seemed like a person that was not allowed to get out, but at least
maybe
enough to
there
get out.
was-
To
I
get
feel
out.
like you're
maybe
looking
there
for.
was.
You're looking for
maybe
excuses.
there was back in the day. There actually was some kind of zombie event that occurred, and he has an artifact from it. Per
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
rules of the movie,
Time out.
that's how it works.
You never heard of-
I don't agree with it.
You never heard of voodoo? You never heard of
zombies?
You never heard of Weekend
they're
at
totally
Bernie's
different.
too?
Well, no, apparently what happened is okay, so you know in the opening scene the guy that gets his head lit on fire, the kid Mark, Zach Galligan, who is also in
Yeah.
Gremlins.
Yeah.
It's his grandfather,
Yes.
right? And his grandfather who got his head set on fire.
Yes,
And his grandfather's friend who shows up in the
Uncle.
wheelchair later. Uncle, sorry.
brother.
Whatever.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Some relation. Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Break it down for him, Kyle.
Like apparently they made it like it was like a hobby for them to collect
Yes.
the most evil artifacts, and then David Lincoln, the Waxwork man, stole those artifacts.
Yes, At the beginning of the movie.
That's how I understood it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I found it really weird that one of them was referenced as something as a prop from a George
probably-
Romero
it-
film.
Oh, okay. Then you've never heard of the movie Poltergeist and how that set's cursed?
That's
that
true.
zombie movie
Yeah,
set
that's
was
true.
cursed.
Well,
There you go.
Well, it could have it could have easily been some guy was like, "Oh, that's from this," but he's just making a general
It could have been.
assumption.
It could have been. It just seems.
You know what?
weirdly-
It could have been easy as
a better movie. No, I'm just kidding.
us taking a break,
Oh,
and we'll
okay.
be right back.
That was my next guess.
Raw meat. You do like raw meat. Please. If not, we can have some.
No, that's fine. I haven't had steak tartare in a long time.
Steak tartare? Oh, yes. Steak tartare.
All right, guys, we're back, and we are talking about Waxwork. I kind of want to break it down a little bit. We went over the synopsis. We haven't really talked about the director that much. He's directed other movies like Waxwork 2, Hellraiser 3, Warlock Armageddon, all the classics.
All the good ones.
All the worst of those series.
Are they really? Is Hellraiser 3 the worst?
It's
of the
not.
series?
No, it's
not
not the
very
worst.
good.
It's not the worst, but
No.
it's definitely not the best.
It's not. Although as a kid, for some reason, I thought Hellraiser 3 was cool because of the different Cenobites. Like they
I
all
did
had,
too.
Oh,
they all
right.
had like
CD,
powers. Yeah, I mean that was stupid. In hindsight.
Butterball.
Butterball was in all of them.
Oh, that's true. He was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the CD, the flamethrower guy, and then the wasn't it the guard whose face, the twins who gets their faces twisted
Yeah,
together?
yep.
Yeah.
So one of the things I did want to talk about, because it's very important to talk about this in this movie, Waxwork, is the music.
Yes.
Man, did they not use music properly in this movie?
It's all
It-
over the place.
It's all over the place. It's jarring. It just cuts to different music at different times. You're like, what the?
This whole film.
I actually thought that it seemed like they did
course you
put
did.
some effort into the music. Like
I don't disagree with that,
it seemed scored. Like it seemed a lot of it was scored.
but it wasn't edited very well.
Yeah.
The editing on this movie is in my opinion, is the weakest link on it.
It is.
But it also,
Are we talking about the editing now? Or
yeah, jump to the editing.
Okay, because I actually think that it's horrible. It's horrible editing, but it was purposeful. They are totally trying to hide the fact that they do not have enough money to do half of the things they wanted to do.
Oh, I agree.
Anytime somebody was trying to get stabbed,
Yep.
and they didn't want to show the entrance point or whatever,
Yep.
they would just like cut.
Just show a
to the face.
reaction. Yeah.
It was very like
And something I learned is that the version that we all watched, presumably you guys got it off the same place we did.
I went Google.
Yeah. So the version we watched is actually an edited version.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah.
There is a regular version out there, an unedited,
Unrated,
release.
actually. I think it
Unrated,
was,
yeah. So like, and it actually counts for some of those really fucking weird edits. Like the biggest one was during the Dracula sequence.
Yeah.
When she's down in the basement and she stabs the 3 brides.
Yeah.
And it's like stab, and then all of a sudden it cuts to her covered in blood.
Right.
And then like it makes another weird cut. That whole scene is actually a lot longer and actually shows all the blood spray happening and all this like gore that's actually occurring, but they cut it out for whatever reason for this release, which
So you're saying
I feel gypped.
we got the airline version.
we got the airline version basically, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of edits throughout the film, little bits here and there, but actually fucked up the overall flow of the film.
Because I thought it was kind of funny.
It's like we're watching the TV cut.
Had I known that, because I thought it was really funny when she goes and gets impaled by the champagne bottles, and then she gets sprayed by the champagne.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
I was like, oh, really? That's what they're going to do to make this kind of really gory? Is like they're going to change blood to champagne?
I actually really loved that.
So did
I thought it was a good gag. I definitely
Yeah.
thought it was a good gag. But,
But
that,
I thought,
that
I
scene
thought it was
actually,
just like a purposeful thing.
like
that,
that
they were doing
particular
it.
scene is actually a little bit longer, where it holds on her against the wall, impaled, and like champagne's bubbling out of her mouth for a little
Oh,
bit and shit.
man.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I really want to see this other version.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know if you
Shit.
can. I think the only one you could find is it's
VHS?
the Region 2 version of the DVD.
Okay.
And actually, the Region 2 version is in widescreen as well. So the one we watched is
Well, yeah, it
is
definitely
a
was cut
stretched
off.
Full,
Yeah, it
full
was,
frame.
yeah.
So, but that one you have to have a region free player to actually even
Oh, that
watch it
sucks.
if you can even find it.
That
Like,
sucks.
Yeah, this is
Nah,
definitely
well,
one
anyways.
I would like to watch this movie again if Shout Factory or someone like that were to re-release it on Blu-ray like the original uncut version. So
Yeah.
the movie might make a little bit more sense in terms of editing. I mean, storyline it's going to be the same.
Well, see, that's kind of where I'm at. Like the thing that I do love about this movie is the concept. Right? I thought it was a cool concept.
It's a very cool concept. And,
I don't know.
okay,
I don't know if I agree with
I don't know
that.
if I'm...
know.
Oh, no, I'm going to give away my rating a little bit.
It's a drive-by. I don't know.
I love films about this kind of topic of like taking literary figures or movie figures and then doing a big thing about them and stuff like that. Like I like what's that Alan Moore comic, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Like I love that comic.
Yeah.
Just because it takes all these literary figures and then changes them up and like
Yeah.
does the thing.
Turns them into heroes.
Loved the idea of this film. Like
Yeah.
loved it.
I did too. I especially like the concept of them, like as soon as they walk onto the display, they're like transported to the world in which this creature existed. I thought that was, if done well, could be really cool.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
yet, I want to also say, and you mentioned this because they couldn't get the rights to these things,
Mhm.
which is weird because they should have been easily able to get the right to
Yeah.
Dracula because that's public domain.
Well, that's why Dracula was in it.
Right.
Yeah.
But, like, who's the other vampire? Like, none of it really, it didn't really follow, like, the book or anything like that or have
No,
any
it
kind of,
was-
like,
no. It was
semblance
just-
to it.
it was
It was
just-
just generic vampires in a very Dracula-esque setting.
It was supposed to be Dracula, and then that other vampire was, I guess, supposed to be like
his
Dracula's son, yeah.
Oh,
his-
was?
Yeah, it's supposed
Yeah.
to be.
Really?
Yeah,
There you go.
the Dracula one was bad because it's bad and good, right?
It's you're
It starts
damn
off
right on
so
that.
terrible.
So bad.
So you're like, what the is going on in this scene? And then like the whole dude's leg exposed.
Oh, that was like so
the
good.
rat eating it.
Oh, you know what? The weird thing about that, too, they don't allude to it, but I had to assume that was what they ate for dinner.
That is what they ate
Yes.
for dinner.
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
his
but they didn't
leg.
really say, like, oh,
No.
you
Yeah.
ate my leg.
Well, that whole scene where
You
she's
said
like
assume it.
she's digging into the bowl with the blood and the whatever else,
Right,
the meat that was
right.
in there. That actually made me grossed out a little
It
bit.
was the steak tartare.
yeah,
Yeah.
the steak tartare.
Which I thought was
And they were all just super creepy
So
watching
funny.
her until she ate it. And then,
But like it's weird because like it's like every little scenario has its own terrible parts and great parts of it. Like but so the great part is when she's down there and finds the guy with the eaten up leg, and all the vampire deaths. And
she becomes a fucking vampire
Yeah.
hunter for 5 minutes, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this shit's
Yeah.
getting
and
cool.
then she just goes upstairs, runs away, and then she's in his gaze, and he sucks her neck, and that's it. And you're like, that's kind of lame.
It was a really lame ending. Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah,
agree.
Really.
The other one was the werewolf one, where it's like he goes in that one. He doesn't believe it's. So that's the other thing too, right? He doesn't believe it's real the whole time.
Yeah, and how come
And
he
how-
got killed?
Yeah, exactly.
Going off
Yeah.
the rules of this world.
Yeah, because
If you don't believe it, then it can't
good
hurt
point,
you.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
And he-
is true.
and
I
he-
never thought about that.
It was that's such a weird thing for them to do. To have him be fully conscious and be like, "Oh, what's this? A door I gotta go into? A house?
Exactly.
Okay, I'll get this guy some wood."
I
and
mean,
talk to
unless
him."
when he saw shit going down for real, he kind of like was like, "Oh,
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's like, okay, this is kind of getting cool. Here comes the transformation, and then he turns into like the jackrabbit of werewolves.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to say,
It was a weird
here's the
looking
thing, I
werewolf.
don't
It was
know.
a terrible looking werewolf.
Here's
The
a-
kills were kind of cool though.
But there's great. There's
Yeah.
like it's a weird thing.
There's great kills in
There's-
this movie in general.
There's great effects in this movie, and then there's really shitty effects. It's
Yeah.
like they picked and choose with the budget which effects were going to be really good, right? They had to. Like all the wax figurines when they go into the waxwork are effing people standing still, shaking.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
every shot you could see them moving.
breathing and moving and shit. It's like,
I want to say one thing about this is something I didn't understand. It wasn't a theme that went along everything. So the girl that was infatuated with the Marquis de Sade,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was under the assumption when I saw that, I was like, oh, did every one of these characters have some sort of connection that drew them to each one? But that
Yes.
wasn't the case with everything. Like the Egyptian
was.
guy, he was like, but what about the werewolf kid? He
Werewolf
just like
kid,
kind
he
of
threw- he dro-
bumbles his way
he
in
dropped
there.
his lighter
Yeah, he
in
dropped
there.
his lighter. And
No,
he
no, no.
just
But
kinda
what I'm
fell
saying
into it.
is, it was
And
like
he said, everybody come over and look at this one. Like that was the first one he went to and was excited about. He was
oh,
drawn
okay.
to that one.
Was he?
Yeah,
Was
yep.
he? Did he say that?
Yep.
Oh yeah, he does say he's like, oh, this is super cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Never mind. So every one of these characters is somewhere in some way drawn to that particular theme that was being
Yes.
shown to them.
Yeah,
in some
which is funny
way.
because like out of all the friends in the world, they have to have the two female friends who are drawn to the Marquis de Sade.
well,
No.
and
no.
Dracula, which is
Dracula.
kind of similar to some extent. Like
Yeah.
Dracula is like
Yeah, but
pleasure and pain mixed together.
Here's
in
the
a
other
weird...
thing, though, too, that was kind of weird, where they just don't follow their own rules to their universe. When Sarah, the good girl, right? Because Mark's in love with China, and China is a whore.
bitch.
She sleeps
She's
around.
terrible.
Yeah.
She's pretty.
She falls into Count of Monte Cristo's world, and
Wait, what?
Count of Monte Cristo.
Marquis de
Count
Sade.
of Monte Cristo.
Marquis de Sade.
Falls into that world, right?
Yeah.
And she's the only one who just somehow gets fully sucked into the character.
That's what I was trying to
That's
figure
because
out.
she's the good girl.
Yeah, she's getting
But
beat.
so-
She always
She's
go
getting
for it.
beaten,
But she's-
whipped.
Good girl's
Yeah, but-
always into the
no,
weird
but
shit.
she's the only one who is like doesn't remember it. Everybody else is like, get me out of here! I'm freaking out. This isn't real. She's the only one who's like,
No, that's not true. The only one that realized that this isn't
nope,
real was
vampire chick. She's saying it down when she's stabbing all the vampires. Down in the thing, she's walking down saying that none of this is real. Like someone's playing a trick on her.
The werewolf guy, same
Yeah,
thing. He walks
yep.
in, he immediately is like, I'm being
Again.
hypnotized.
Why did they die then? If they knew it wasn't real, they
I
knew it was
don't-
a trick.
That-
I don't know.
That's
There
the
was
big
such
plot flaw.
inconsistency.
I will say,
I will say. Oh, sorry.
no, I'm sorry.
You can say.
Okay, the Marquis de Sade one really rubbed me the wrong way. It made me feel really uncomfortable.
Why?
It just was like, I don't know.
Oh, it's dirty.
It's really dirty
It's
and
really
overtly
dirty.
sexual, and the girl's like a virgin, and then it's like she makes that comment where Zach Galligan tries to lean in and kiss her, and she says, "I can't. Like, I'm looking for something more,"
Right.
which led me to believe like you were looking for
She-
some
Abuse.
intense S&M
She was
version.
looking for Mr. Grey. That's all.
More than that, for Christ's sakes. I mean, Jesus. I'm going to beat you until you die, you whore. Like
Yeah.
it just kept going on, and they just
Yeah.
drilled
like
it.
the whore that you are.
Yeah, and it was just like she was like just reveling in it and all, and I was just like, this doesn't make. It just didn't make any sense. It felt really.
It was a weird.
It left
like,
a
it was
bad
weird
taste in my
character.
mouth.
It was
No,
a
that-
weird character
That is
decision.
I feel like that is the one scene that actually really slows this movie down and takes it to
does.
a weird place. Because everything else I feel like was acceptable in that universe because they're all kind of monsters, except for that guy was just like a sex addict. Like and kind of put it in.
But
he isn't.
Per se.
But
I mean,
her being so giving into that character when no one else was, none of the other kids were giving into their worlds, but her character was. It was just a very odd. It was an odd placement.
Makes you wonder why. That's for
I
sure.
really liked. I did want to say I did really like the Mummy world. I thought that one was pretty good.
That one was pretty damn good. I like that one too.
Mhm.
I liked that character, the cop.
Oh, the cop.
That cop
God, the
sucks
cop.
up until that scene.
He's so overplayed.
I know that's why it was
He's
so
so
funny.
over the
like-
He's so overplayed.
Hey,
It's
what
great.
did I say? He looks like a cheap version of what's his name? What's that actor?
See, we did this last night.
Keither Sutherland.
He does.
He looks like
I
a
thought the
cheapo
same
version.
No, and that's the thing too. That there's where I kind of want to get into like that's like a lot of the bad with the movie, right? But there are nuggets of goldness. Like there are some really funny parts in this movie. Like the whole opening speech between Mark and his mom is freaking hysterical. Like about the help.
I need.
Oh, right.
And they're on that huge table, and they're
What
like
is
looking.
that?
They're
Okay,
looking around.
I like the coffee thing. I need caffeine.
Yeah.
And then the butler had to call it caffeine. He couldn't call it coffee.
Yeah.
Like stumbles.
And had to call it
And
nicotine.
hands him a cigarette.
Did anyone ever think this is how I saw it? Right when I thought, I'm like, oh, so they just took the cast from Cruel Intentions,
Well, it's so weird, right?
and they just murdered him in a fucking cabin,
Well, it's so,
basically.
it's so weird because the first half of the movie like really sets this tone of.
I wonder
like,
if that's how
these-
Joss Whedon sold Cabin in the Woods. It's the cast of Cruel Intentions.
Well,
and-
this is kind of like how I feel about the first half of this movie, right? The first half of this movie is the kids are kind of like assholes, and you don't really like them. And then like when they start dying off, and it comes down to Mark and Sarah, it's like all of a sudden they're sweet, and it kind of takes a different tone in
It
the
does,
movie for
yeah,
the
the tone
kids.
definitely
It did. I didn't
shifts.
understand that.
I
It
didn't
felt
get it
like a
either.
payoff that never occurred. Was like he was this kid, and he lived in a very posh environment where he had servants, and he ordered them around like assholes, and he seemed
But they
like
all loved him.
yeah. And then he goes to college, and he's not popular for some reason, which makes no sense to me. And then he goes into this cabin, and it just all kind of mysteriously disappears. Like all of a sudden, he becomes
Yeah, he's
like this totally stand-up dude
Yeah.
that just that bro-zoned some girl, unfortunately, and didn't realize till just now when he loses the other girl.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, he's like the romantic lead.
Well, his options are becoming very limited, Mike.
Very selfish. Very selfish. Maybe it was part of his character.
Yeah. See, exactly.
But it's weird. And then he had to like redeem his family in some weird way.
Oh, my
It became
God.
so.
Can we? Is this a good point where we can?
Well, that's like one of the other things I want to get into as a nugget of gold. I feel like
Can we get into the army of the elderly?
yeah. Is like I thought that was so goddamn funny.
I loved it.
His uncle and his army of elderly men, but his uncle has like a tank
wheelchair
with
Great.
fins.
It's got like it's like a
With
cow catcher on the
fins?
front. He's just
Yeah.
And
plowing
he's got,
through
like
people.
swords.
It's like something he brings to a Jimmy Buffett concert.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
like
You gotta
Like,
understand
they're
what
all
the
so
hell.
old.
His
They-
radio flyer.
Yeah.
Maybe that wheelchair was supposed to be some kind of weird quasi reference
Well,
to the
that's-
silver bullet.
no, they're
Maybe.
all so old. They all brought like muskets and swords.
They
Yeah.
did. And
That's how you.
pitchforks, it
That's
was
how
very...
you. That's how you fight ancient evil.
Wait a second, though.
Cody.
Wasn't there like a machine gun like somebody had?
No,
at some
everybody
point?
had some weird. They had some
Yeah.
weird
Nobody
weapons.
had a
Don't get me
machine
wrong.
gun, did they?
I had to, yeah, I know. I had to
No,
ask
no.
Kyle what the gun was at the end that
Yeah.
Oh, that
David
was
Lincoln had because I was like, why
I
does he
thought
have
it
a
was an
laser
AK.
gun?
No,
What
it's
was it?
I can't. I don't know if I'm saying it, but I believe it's a Calico.
Okay.
Okay.
And like that
Oh.
that round
ColecoVision.
that
Yeah,
round
I know
that
that
round
one.
tube that's on top of it.
Okay.
That's actually the magazine.
Oh,
okay.
interesting.
So like the
Hmm.
bullets go in a circle while it fires. It only
Wow.
shoots 22.
I thought it was kind of weird that they even
So,
showed up.
and
at
it's
the
weird
end.
that they painted it clown colors.
Well, they showed up at the end to stop
Like
the
yellow and
like
reds
that's
and
the
shit.
that's the other great plot hole in this movie too. That's really funny. It's like they send the kids back in right to destroy it, but they were just gonna show up anyways.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they knew full well the kids weren't going to do it.
Yeah. So why'd they send them in there?
Distract him so he has time to
Assemble.
assemble his
So,
army.
yeah.
His
So he has time to wake up his army because it's past 7:30.
Yeah. When I first saw that scene, I understood it that
his army of geriatrics.
the uncle is in on it too. Like
But
that's
it's-
how immediately I thought was us like, oh, he like when he calls it, we found him, and I was like, oh wow, they want these kids to die. They're also in on.
I didn't
this
take
thing.
that. I think I took it
Really?
as the uncle finally found out where this fucking guy is hiding out.
Right
at.
off the bat.
Yeah.
You
Well,
didn't think
he
it was
called-
weird?
When,
Same town.
when he initially picks up the phone, I'm like, is he gonna be on the same side? And he's like, we finally found him. I was like, oh, okay, so this is like he's been hunting for this fucking Waxwork motherfucker.
Because he's the one that
Well, he's got-
says,
yeah.
you kids need to go back there. And I didn't understand, like, he's throwing his fucking nephew right into the throes of danger.
Well, I don't know.
It just seemed very,
it's
very...
It's not a good plot point, but
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I understand it. In his mind, it was okay. Either these kids are going to burn the place down, we're going to show up, and it's going to be rubble, and we can celebrate, or they're going to die. And either way, we need to stop whatever we think is going to happen.
I
So
was
one
really-
way or another, there's an army of old people at the ready.
I was really
At the
hoping
ready.
he was going to be like, I'm Alan Quartermain, like at the end of it. Like, I really thought it was going to be something.
No, instead he gets his
thing.
head ripped off.
He does.
Yep. Yes, he does. By a werewolf that's on fire.
On fire.
Yeah.
Dude, that looked cool.
It did.
That
No,
was
there's some-
another effect that was done well.
Dude, there's some really good effects in this movie,
There
and
is.
then there's some really bad ones. It's like
Mhm.
hit or miss. It's
Yep.
hit or miss.
Oh, you know what one I hated the most?
Hmm.
And I know that every, like, weird 80s film has to have this. I hated that the guy went into the wax and then came out and said,
Yeah.
What did he say? What was his
I'll
little
be
thing?
back.
No, no.
he didn't say that. He didn't say
Basically.
that. Basically.
You should get a closer look, and then he just falls back in.
Yeah.
I love
So
that. I
stupid.
love that effect also when the cop is digging into the girl's
face.
face.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
into
yeah.
the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was, like, muscles and shit.
It looked great. Like,
It
and
did
it
look
actually
really
did
good.
make me cringe. I was like, ooh, he's like taking a chunk out of her cheek.
And then it
I like how
actually
he's trying to
manifested.
flick it into the bag, and then finally he just like fuck
Picks it up.
picks it up.
Such a bad police officer. And that police officer was absolutely horrible.
Oh
how,
yeah.
how do you start off with, there's been 12 missing people in the last 2 weeks?
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, how about those
Oh my God.
flashbacks? How about those flashbacks out of nowhere during that scene?
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
Wait, what do you mean flashbacks?
There was these weird flashbacks that happened during that
Where it
scene
was
there.
showing
Yeah.
it was showing the missing person and then their wax figure.
No,
and then the
but-
missing person.
No,
and then
that
their
wasn't.
wax
That
figure.
wasn't when he first got introduced.
No,
that was later.
when that's when he's realizing he's connecting the
He's
dots.
going to, yeah, that's what I'm saying. The thing that bothers me was that his police work was, yeah, I'm acknowledging that there's a huge problem, but the fact that you're telling me something that totally confirms what I'm saying right now is so outlandish. You're a stupid kid. Fuck you. I'm not even gonna take this serious.
That
Let's
wasn't even,
go.
that wasn't
Let's
even what
find out.
bothered me
It's
about it.
great.
What bothered me about it was like, hey, my friends are missing. We're in this waxwork. There's 14 other people that are missing. So fucking what?
Right.
That's the feeling I had.
He
Like,
didn't think at
what
any
a
point in time,
shitty
like,
cop.
oh,
Who says that?
Almost
now
as
we
good
have
as the
more
Pieces
people.
cops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have been an animal.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, right? I hear a lot of negative stuff. Is there anything that you guys really just enjoyed?
I think we've kind of covered
Okay.
some stuff that we enjoyed.
the
I
idea of it was
I
great.
love the concept. Yeah, I agree. I love the concept.
There's some. Okay, I do want to say something that I loved in this film.
Okay.
I love the acting. I love the acting because it's so atrociously bad.
I think done on
it's
purpose.
good.
I think it's done on purpose.
I really thought the same way. I felt like they were so.
Dude, I think a
much
lot of
can't-
this movie is done on purpose.
I can't
the way
completely
it
get
is.
on board with that. I really honestly
Oh.
feel like when they were in the editing room, it's like,
Well, then let me ask
this
you.
is pretty shitty. Let's kind of move some stuff around to make it a
It could
little
have been.
more fun.
Like an Eight-Legged Freaks. They did the same thing with Eight-Legged Freaks from what I have heard of that
oh,
film.
really?
That originally that film was supposed to be a dead, serious horror
Yeah.
film, and then they were like, fuck it.
I
we're just
think
gonna do it.
I
Like,
think
oh,
the
we
direct
casted
I think the
David Arquette.
director and the producer and the editor were smart enough to realize there's enough here that we can actually kind of save this and just kind of change the description, and make
know.
it a horror comedy because it
The only way
it doesn't feel like it was tongue in cheek on purpose.
The
to me,
only reason I would
100%.
disagree with that is that some of the dialogue seems too purposeful to not be tongue in cheek.
Some of the dialogue was changed though too
You-
to account for the fact that they didn't have rights to certain.
Well, I understand, like you said,
Certain
the
stuff,
Phantom of the
so-
Opera one.
Yeah, and there was some other scenes too, but I mean, it sounded like they didn't do a good job of it. But I mean, the actors aren't good to begin with, so you're not going to get a great performance.
They're fan. How dare
Why?
you?
Zach Galligan is a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And in this, he probably is the strongest actor.
So was
But
Deborah
even
Foreman.
his-
Deborah Foreman was fantastic in this
Is
movie.
that
too.
who was she?
She was Sarah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Even he, though,
She was okay.
he
Oh, get the
can't
fuck out.
save the bad dialogue, which is why I think it was tongue in cheek to begin with. And the way he plays the character too, like right at the beginning, as like what we discussed at the beginning, he's like this really eccentric asshole, privileged asshole.
I don't know that whole line.
Just an
I
asshole.
need the caffeine.
Right.
Just seemed like
He seemed like he was going to be the killer at the end.
I don't know. It just seemed like he had zero direction. Somebody handed him a script and they just all stared at him and turned
I
the
can
camera
agree with
on.
that. That might have been the case.
So let me ask you this question: Is this a cult film? And if it is, why? If not, does it have the makings to be a cult film?
Okay, so I read this on Wikipedia.
Read it away.
I had read that this film, that a lot of people that have watched this film say that this is that Scream ripped this off because it was one of the first. Like everybody raves about Scream as being a self-aware slasher or a self-aware horror film, and that they were that a lot of fans of this film say that no, this film is very, very self-aware as well, and maybe this might have been the first one that should have gotten the recognition for being that way. But you know what?
Do you have like specific examples? Because I mean, I'm not 100%.
As far as
on board with,
I think as far as the fact that
like they're making
They
commentary
do
on
talk
other
about
horror films.
yeah,
Yes.
they do
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about horror films, but
and they poke fun at it.
They
poke
do.
and they poke fun at horror. Like
There's
it-
some
as
weird-
as a film genre itself, because a lot of those are, like you said, film based.
I mean,
So they're poking
Well,
at.
I want to go on. That's exactly what I was thinking too. After seeing the film, I was kind of like, I mean, yeah, there's a little like
there's maybe
peppering,
a little bit.
there's
Yeah,
peppering of it,
I don't
but
feel like
not
it.
like Scream was, where
they didn't
the
double
whole
down.
thing was based on
Yeah,
it. Like
they-
it was so like yeah, exactly.
This was like that. If they did it, it was like an accident. If anything, I feel like
well, then
it was like a happy accident that they did that. But
Does
I feel
that-
like Scream was the first one that was completely conscious of it. And
is that your answer to my question? Do you think it's a cult film, or
It has to be if there were that many people that bitch and moan about it, right?
That's your point. Okay, that's your
I
point.
mean, that's where I was kind of thinking,
Yeah.
like, for something to be that so prominent and like being like a big issue, to say that, hey, no, not Scream, this weird movie called Waxwork, to draw attention to that, seems that way.
we got the choppers.
goddamn
overhead.
helicopter over the house.
The chopper.
Yeah.
Chris, what about you?
Oh,
I really don't think that this is a cult film. I don't think there's really anything like super memorable about the film to put it into that category.
Do you think it could fall in the category of it's so bad it's good?
No, I don't think it quite hit it.
Well, wait a second. I also want to say one other thing, too. So, yeah, the thing I think that might also make this a cult film is the fact that, like, what warranted a sequel for this thing? Like, it lost half of its budget. This is a guaranteed flop.
Guaranteed. Maybe it's like the
So-
producers where they make more money on it.
I mean, what,
Huh?
like, if there wasn't some level of audience interest in this film, then why did it warrant another sequel?
I don't think that makes it a cult film, though.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I mean,
when
I
did
mean,
this-
if
It
they
obviously found it. He's saying
a cult. Excuse me.
I don't think the audience is
Hold on.
quite there for
But
this
no,
one.
hold on. He said it didn't find an audience in box office, but it had to have found an audience somewhere
What
for
year
it to
did the
warrant
sequel
a
come out? What year did the sequel come out? Do we know that?
I'll look it up real quick. Go ahead and talk.
I think it was in the
amongst yourselves.
90s. I think it was like 1990 or something.
Okay,
like
so
that.
then this is if it is 1990, it's like two or 3 years, maybe. Well, I mean, we'll check and meet, but like
92.
Why? Okay,
Oh.
so like a good 4 years afterwards, he pitched this idea again because he wrote and directed the second film, and apparently got Bruce Campbell apparently.
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, like I had an idea for the sequel of this thing, and I think that you should invest in this because despite the fact that my other film was a total flop, unless it had a huge life on video."
Drew Barrymore is also in the sequel.
You gotta
go.
be fucking kidding me.
I think it
She
could.
she plays vampire victim number 1.
We should have just done the sequel.
I think it could have had life on video for sure because I mean this is really when that was coming into play. Like a lot of people were had
Yeah.
home video, like had
88,
VCRs.
92. Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like
David Carradine is also in the
Blockbuster
sequel.
was
This is-
booming.
They're
Circus
oh my
video
God.
going crazy.
So the first one they get the guy from Fright Night, and the second one they get Drew Barrymore, Bruce Campbell, and David Carradine.
And the guy from Friday Night.
Yeah.
Oh, is Zach Galligan back in the
Yeah.
second one?
Yep.
There we go.
Alexander Godunov,
I don't know. I guess
which
it's-
you'll remember as the orchestra conductor from The Money Pit.
There you go.
He's in the sequel as well.
I mean, yeah, okay, it could be a matter of opinion. Here's what I'm looking at. Okay, when we go out to these like conventions and stuff like that, you're not seeing a whole lot of support for Waxwork.
You see a ton of what? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You
But
don't.
wait a second. Hold on.
Also in the sequel.
Did you see a bunch of stuff for Night of the Comet?
I would be less surprised to see Night of the Comet than I would Waxwork, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, is this what about 1990 The Bronx Warriors?
nothing.
So you think that was not a cult film?
I don't think it's that big of a cult film.
But
I think
do you think it was somewhat of a cult film? Do you think there has at least
what,
something
I
that's
mean,
keeping this
really,
alive?
Get a
what,
mic.
what
Get a
warrants a
mic.
cult following that of 10 people like it? I mean, I don't know.
Honestly, like this is what we just talked about a little bit ago. I honestly believe it's because this time, this era in filmmaking, there was just money to throw at everything. They were trying to have, like, I feel like at this point in time, studios were fighting to have the most amount of films on block to go against the other studios.
Okay.
They were putting butts in the seats, like they just wanted they wanted to either have a movie that would directly compete with the competition's movie release, or just have something original out there.
Also, I feel like everybody was trying to capitalize on the idea of a franchise because
Yes.
that was working so well for other series that they're like, well, if we do a Waxwork
I mean,
2
it's the same
and a
thing.
Waxwork 3,
It's the
then
same world we're basically living in now, where all the studios are looking for, how can I create my cinematic universe?
Oh, like I said, the Warner Brothers has been looking how to replace Harry Potter ever since Harry Potter finished.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the
yeah.
thing. Ever since the Marvel Cinematic Universe proved that it can work, there's all these studios like, okay, well, that's a great concept. How can we scale up?
Well, yeah,
and
like
have films all the way out to 2020 or 2025?
Well, like the new Tom Cruise film that's coming out. They're doing
think
the goddamn Mummy.
if
Well,
there
yeah,
is-
they're doing that. They're trying to
doing
turn that
all the
into
Universal.
a connected cinematic universe.
Chris, make your point. And I
if
actually
there
want to
is-
ask a question.
If there is two things that could possibly put this into like any kind of cult status, I think it's the use of the monsters and the little midget dude. I think those are the two things that would make this maybe a memorable
Interesting
cult
point.
film.
Interesting point. I actually might kind of agree with you.
Okay,
on
because
that,
that actually was going to be my question: is what if it's a moot point as to whether or not it is a cult film? Do you think it deserves to be a cult film, and should it be a cult film?
I don't.
You don't think it
Personally,
should be?
no, I don't.
All right, with that, let's rate this Mammer Jammer. No, I'm just kidding, Kyle. What did you?
Fuck you.
Do you think
Let's
it's-
just rate it?
Now, Kyle, I want to ask
I said my piece, and I personally, no, I don't think it's currently a cult film, but yeah, I think it has potential to become a cult film if it became more widely available to people. Like, yeah, there's enough weirdness.
That's
and I think
true.
Bad
Because
acting.
apparently we can't find the actual original version unless it's on what would you say? It's
Region 2.
Region 2.
See, that's all.
Region 2
that's all the
DVD,
making
yeah.
for a cult film right there.
You would think that if it did have
I think
a cult
it's
following,
got
that
enough,
would be
I
in
think
demand.
it's got enough gems in there. It's got enough references to other films, and it's got enough just really bad acting to be in that category of a cult film.
So holy shit! I just found out that this is not the little person from Fantasy Island, who I really thought it was. Apparently, that was another actor, and I feel really horrible about it because this actor obviously worked hard.
It's easy to get your little people mixed up.
Oh
No,
my god!
I know. No, it's true. It's
Holy
I feel like
shit.
all little people look the same to me now.
Oh
or something
my
like
god,
that.
it's getting worse.
It's
Let's
kind of
just
getting
smoke.
worse.
Mike, stop. Cody, can we just do
Yeah,
your thing?
Kyle can cut that whole part out.
I'm
thought that
leaving
was
it all
very
in.
funny.
I'm leaving it all
All
in.
right, guys, let's rate this Mammer Jammer, please. We are going to rate it bottles of champagne. Let's start off with Kyle. Kyle, how many bottles of champagne?
All right. Well, this movie isn't a 5.
Okay.
This movie isn't a 4.
Okay.
It's not a 3.5, but I think I'm gonna go with 3.
We'll go with a 3.
I mean, I enjoyed this movie. There's a lot of stuff to hate about it. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff to like there. There's little gems, little nuggets of gold in this movie, and honestly, I would be very, very excited, very interested if I can get my hands on a copy of the unedited version and rewatch the film, and it's in it how it was intended to be seen, and not this weird airplane TV cut that is available on the internet now. I mean, I don't think that recut version is going to save the acting. That is what it is, but it's comical on how bad I think it is. I think it's bad. But I like how the all the different monsters are incorporated. Yeah, it sucks they weren't able to, get the exact rights to the monsters they really wanted, but they found subtle ways to kind of sneak them in. So I'm going to give this movie 3 bottles of champagne. Is that what we're doing?
Yep, 3 bottles of champagne.
Okay, there you go.
All right, Mike, are you giving this movie bottle service? What are you doing?
I'm gonna give it 3 sessions of bottle service.
3. Ooh, that's better than my
Yeah,
rating.
it's a Mayweather in Vegas night. I know. I really think, man, going back to the whole cult film thing. If it's not a cult film, I feel like it really should be. I do think the acting is so bad it's good. I was gonna give it 4, but I found out that the little midget guy was not the guy from
That
Fantasy
took the whole
Island.
point away.
Yeah, I would have given it another one, but yeah, I apologize to that person. But yeah, no, it's a great film. I love the concept of it.
I don't know, great.
No, it's a great film in terms of its concept.
Okay,
I agree.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
with that,
I think the concept is great. They missed it a little bit, but not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad. If they could have gotten the rights, it would have been so fantastic.
Yes.
It would have been fantastic. It has a lot of potential to have been a 4 or a 4.5.
I'll go next, even though I'm supposed to go last, but I'm gonna save the.
I think Chris should go next. We'll save you for last, Cody.
No,
It's your pick.
I want to save
Chris.
Save Chris. Stop! I want to save Chris. I host the goddamn show. It's not the goddamn Kyle and Friends show. Okay.
Kyle's Playhouse.
Yeah, it's like Kyle's Playhouse.
Fucking
right?
should be. Great name. Thanks. I'm gonna take that.
I'm gonna go next. I will also give it 3. I think there's a lot of potential in this film to be a cult film if it's not already. Like I said, there's enough nuggets of gold in it to make it warrant another watch, right? So this is the first time I've seen it probably in I don't know how many years, over 10. And I definitely need to watch it again because I feel like there's things that I've missed because I wasn't paying close enough attention the first watch around. Like I feel like if I watch it a second time, I'm going to catch on to more of the jokes that maybe I didn't get because I think a lot of this was done on purpose. So I'm going to go with 3. Last but not least, our highest review of the night,
Chris,
goes to Chris.
What do you
Chris,
mean by highest review?
How many champagne
We're just
bottles are you
predicting,
gonna-
We
Chris.
didn't
I'm
smoke
just,
any weed
We're
tonight.
predicting, Chris.
No, I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing how high you're going to rate this film right now. I see a 5, maybe a 5.5.
Wow, we've never gone up that high.
Yeah,
before.
never.
Yeah. I will say that my rating was going to be lower before this discussion, but I'm going to give it a 2. No, but for real, I'm going to maybe get a lot of disagreement here. I don't think this film should be a cult film. I don't see that much in it that for me makes it a cult film. It's not memorable. I did think some of the cinematography was good. Some of the effects were good. Didn't care for any of the characters, any of the actors. I thought the monsters were actually pretty corny, and it did seem a little bit slapped together. Maybe because of the rights situation, it could have been better. I also would like to see the unrated version because I think the potential for like the effects might have been greater than what we actually got. So I wish I could see that one. I don't hate this film. There's a mood to it. There's a feel to it that I do like. I just feel like it does miss on a lot of levels. The pacing gets drugged down with the whole Marquis de Sade story. That kind of took me out of it. I'm not really sure why they made a second one, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to stick with it with a 2. I maybe could watch this movie again if I had a lot more alcohol and a lot more marijuana in my system, but yeah, it just didn't do it for me, man. Like I don't care for this movie. I like the cover art. I'll say that.
Chris has to get drugged to watch it the next time.
Well, that was actually going to be my next question to you, Chris. Is would you be willing to watch it again in a group setting? Because
Yeah.
I watched it with Cody, and I could tell you right now that if I had watched it by myself, I would probably have given it like a 2 or 1.5. But I feel like this is more of like a community film where
I agree.
you watch it with friends and you kind of pick up on the jokes or you see the humor in it, and it's more of an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, if I had more of an interactive experience with people around me that we could laugh about the things that were happening on screen, it might have been more fun. I don't know that it makes it a better
No,
film, but like
it makes it more fun. And it makes it to me like more of a cult film because you can sit there with your friends and point out and laugh at everything wrong with it.
Yeah,
and
I
yell.
think that's one of the things with cult films is I think most cult films are kind of like a community thing. You get together with your friends and you watch it and you kind of laugh
yeah,
at it.
and there are moments that I could see that being fun and all that, but
We'll watch it
as
again.
as a film on its own, seeing it for the first time, like not that impressed, and honestly, like I feel like again the cover art sucked me in, and I was
No.
kind of duped.
See, here's one
That's
thing.
a running theme with these movies.
There's one thing that I will say that I was impressed with this movie, even if you weren't, Chris. A $1.5 million budget for what they pulled off.
Yeah, I'll
is
agree
not
with
shit.
that. No, the
And they
locations
pulled-
were cool. Like,
No, even the creatures, like as stupid as the werewolf looks. I mean, for $1.5 million, that's pretty damn
They
advanced.
stretched it.
Yeah, they stretched the hell out of it. Looks like they took an old Easter Bunny costume and just buffed it up a bit.
A little brown spray paint.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's our show for this week. You can follow us at cultfilm_review on Instagram. You can also follow us at that same address on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow Mike
At Mike Salucio on Twitter. And writing at friendlyneighborhoodfilmmaking.com.
I like how he's learned to take a pause.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta collect myself before I.
You've got to.
You get too much momentum,
say
you
it
screw
a
it
couple
up.
times in your
when I get
head.
really excited and I was just like, I can't do it. Yeah, it
You
doesn't
can
work.
follow Chris at.
You can follow me at cultfilm_Chris on Instagram, or you can go to Midnight Releasing and check out our new film, Where the Devil Dwells. It's amazing.
I feel like once a week you have a new film.
I heard where it dwells. I bought a book that's very similar to it. It's called Where Does the Poop Go?
Oh, no, not anything like that. Also, The Conduit came out from local filmmakers here.
Oh, go check that
Released
out.
I've heard of that film.
Go check that out. All right, and you can follow Kyle at.
You can follow me at cultfilm_Kyle on Twitter.
Also, guys, you can follow me at cultfilm_Cody on Twitter. And remember, if you're going to join a cult, just make sure they watch good movies. We'll see you next week.